I'd like to welcome you to this month's NCSG webinar presented by CVC Success Group. And this month's presentation is something that if you are a manager, if you are an owner, if you are a company who is looking to hire new people, then you need to really listen into this one, because in this webinar, we're going to share with you a gold nugget proven process of marketing for, assessing, and the interview process that will bring you fantastic members to your team. Now, this is a new process. It is something that has been unheard of and untried in this industry until we uncovered this process several months ago. You're going to hear from Ryan Kohler and Danna Olsen of Applicant Pro. That's right, Applicant Pro, and applicantpro.com is their website address. And they're going to talk about the program that they offer and how they can help you bring new members to your team, not only just bodies, rather people that have the right culture, the right drive, and the right stuff to become superstars on your team. So listen in. I think this episode is going to be really great for you and give you some fantastic ideas of how to take your hiring up to a whole new level. So hang on, the webinar will be starting in just a minute. Hey, I want to thank you for being with us again. So here's our two guests for today. And Ryan, I hope I pronounced this correctly, is Ryan Kohler. And he is the founder and the guy that figured this system out that we're getting ready to roll out to you today. Our other guest is Danna Olsen. And Danna is one of the account reps, I'm going to call her there, that we actually put through a lot of due diligence research and kind of actually didn't let her know while we were researching, because we were looking for a great system. So we put her through a lot of questions and answers one day. And then at the end, we told her what we were really looking for. And it's turned into a really good thing for them. So today we're going to be talking. Ryan's going to be answering a lot of questions. As you look at this, you can see that Danna's email address is on the screen, and we're going to be asking a lot of questions. Now, if you are watching us, there is a comment bar. You can ask questions. We will flash them on the screen, and we'll get either Ryan, Danna, Sheryl, or Brandi in order to ask these questions. So I'm going to give you the first one, Ryan. What in the world did you come up with? How did you come up with this hiring system that we're talking about here today?
Sure. So yeah, I actually studied, accounting in college. I happened to start working for a tech company, and I quit my job, 20 years ago. Quit my job and went into web marketing. And about 15 years ago, some people that I was doing some other work for had a huge group of small business clients and asked me if we could build some hiring software. I'd never even, to be honest, never even seen it, never used it, didn't go out and look, just kind of talked to the clients and decided, hey, I think we can build up some type of a web platform for managing people applying for jobs. And that thing, at that point, most small businesses were emailed resumes and a paper application on a clipboard. And that was 15 years ago. I started with, I had a full-time job building this software platform, and I had a part-time work from home mom programmer. And so that's where we started. We bootstrapped from there to today. So 15 years of bootstrap, other than the money I took out of my own paycheck to pay my first programmer for about 2 years. We're at 8,000, 8,600 clients across the U.S. right now. On any given month, we're processing a couple million employment applications. And so team of 250 now employees at our own company to kind of drive that. Yeah.
That's pretty fantastic. So what we're going to be doing, Ryan, is we're going to kind of take turns asking you questions. And don't feel bad if you have to rely on Danna there to give them the answers at any point. We can put her into the spotlight there. But so you're aware, you can see Danna's email address on here, and we'll talk about how you do this today. But please, please listen to what's going on. So we're just going to kind of bounce around. So what's going to happen here is, Sheryl, you're going to go first. Then Brandi, you ask the next one. After that, then I'll come back in, and we're going to rotate in this manner today so we can move this expediently. So Sheryl, you have the floor, young lady.
Basically, I think a lot of our viewers would like to know what they would have to do to help you put the system together.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And if we kind of back up just to highlight something that Brandi said, like hiring is a fundamental function of driving a business, like full stop. If you think about kind of the core things that are needed to grow, sustain, grow, scale a company, it is demand generation of getting customers and delivery platform. And that usually has to do with labor, some type of labor team. If you generate too many leads and don't have enough people, then it falls flat. If you have too many people and don't generate enough leads, then you're overstaffed. And so that right there, recruiting is this like generally overlooked part of driving a successful business, and sourcing, especially if you can't source qualified candidates into the top of the funnel, then it makes us really lack confidence, firing bad people, all those types of things. And so from that client perspective, you know, the very first thing that we have to figure out is who it is you're after and what kind of content or job ad we're going to write to attract them. Generally, that is, I would say, the most overlooked part of recruiting. We tend to, I'm sure everybody, Brandi and Sheryl, and everybody on here has done it. We hop into Indeed, we go Google or search for one of our competitors, we copy their ad and throw it into a Word doc and make a few changes to it and post it. You know, one of the funny things is I bet none of us ever called them and asked them if it worked. What if the ad you just copied was somebody who's on this podcast today going, we get no applicants. We don't actually validate where we copy from. You would never do that with a marketing campaign. You would never go copy your competitor's marketing campaign, make a few changes and throw it live. And so that at its very first thing is probably one of the places where we slow down a little. And from the client side, it's letting us interview them for 10 or 15 minutes to understand what it is that makes their company unique, their culture unique. What is the reason why somebody would quit their job and come work for them and view this job as an upgrade? And that really is probably and it's not hard. Our team's great at interviewing that, but that's really what we're looking for. Everything after that is just a megaphone for that message. But whatever that message is of why would somebody come work for me has to be kind of pulled out of the client, because we just don't think about it. We just figure, hey, we'll just grab a job ad from somewhere. And so that is our very first part. We interview clients and ask them a handful of questions about why would somebody want to work for you versus where they work today. And that's what goes into a good job ad, because a job ad isn't a bunch of reasons why somebody shouldn't apply. It is the reason why somebody should. And if you think about, if you go out to Indeed right now and search your competitors' ads, or even look at your own ads that you're running right now today, just ask yourself that question. Is this ad something that explains to a job seeker why this will be an upgrade for them in their life? Or is this an ad with a bunch of reasons of why people shouldn't apply because they're not a fit, they don't have the right qualifications, whatever? And that really is that first stage, Sheryl, is can we get a good ad that's going to attract candidates? And can we come up with a list of screening questions to be able to filter that list down of the people who come in so that the best ones come to the top of the list? Everything from there gets way, way easier when you nail that first part. But if you don't nail the first part, then you get too few applicants and you just struggle to hire.
Your turn, Brandi.
So I kind of have a testimonial that kind of piggybacks on what Ryan said. But you talked about, you know, you guys spend a lot of time with us finding out what's unique about us, etc. And we made our first hire within 2 weeks of going live with the system, and found him on our portal. And I was asking him, where did you apply through? And he said, Indeed. And at first I was like really upset. And I'm like, well, I've had ads on Indeed. Like, how come you didn't see my ad? And then I realized it's because when we had our CVC client only meeting and Danna was kind of showing the program to us, she said what a lot of people do is they go and they put like their job description basically as their ad. That was me. And when we worked with Applicant Pro to craft our ad, that was way more attractive than anything I could ever write. And Dan, I have to tell you, when we were doing that and going through the process, I guess one of the things I forgot to mention is we have a Halloween contest because I'm dressed for Halloween today because we have a Halloween contest every year with a cash prize. But that was kind of some of the things that you guys were trying to pull out from us is like, what makes us unique? What are the things that nobody else does? We have a Top Golf membership. So I really liked a lot of those things. I guess my question for you would be, can you explain the wedge?
The wedge, you mean the video interviews?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And just to comment, like Brandi, that can't be stated enough on the what makes us unique. The problem is that most job ads came from big companies. And if you're a big giant company, you have money, you have brand recognition, you have the best benefits, career growth, all that stuff. Wells Fargo could literally post something with no content and people would apply. But when you're the little guy like me and like you guys and like you're the people listening, you have to do something else. And it clearly isn't money and brand recognition. It has to be something different, something that explains why somebody would want to work for that small company. And that's really hard for us all to grasp because we think we should follow the biggest people in our industry. But the biggest people in our industry are Goliaths. They have the sword and the shield. You're David. If you go pick up their tools, you're going to lose. You have to pick up tools that amplify your strengths. Wedge is a great example where once you have a group of applicants flowing through, if you think about the process, we attract really good candidates. We set the initial screening so that the people who are completely unqualified are filtered out. The best people come up to the top of the list. At that point, we then want to gather more information about the candidates to help us kind of make a better decision. And that could be an assessment or that could be a video interview. And especially where meeting up with somebody live can be difficult and can elongate the hiring process. Number one. Number two, trying to coordinate hours while we might be working 9 to 5. Our best potential applicants might have jobs. And so they might not be available when we're available. And so using a video interview that is able to be sent out to 10 or 20 people all in one shot, they can do it when it's convenient for them. And it comes back and it's a list of preset questions that we help clients come up with. Very similar to the job questions. These are kind of like a phone interview questionnaire where we're able to see this video, gather the content. But the key is just reducing the friction of the time constraint because we need to be fast about hiring, not fast in a way where we cut corners and make a bad hire, but fast in cutting out kind of the waste, which would be, the time between when I get an application and when I can actually do the interview, or when our schedules are going to work, or when they're available to take a day off to come and talk to me. Those things, they don't actually add any value in the recruiting process, but what they do is elongate it, and that's unnecessary. In the same way you wouldn't want to do that with the sales process. You wouldn't want to put off a lead until sometime in the future when you're available. You try to condense that as much as possible to respond when there's still momentum. And that's really what, say, wedge or an assessment, anything like that is a way to maintain the momentum moving forward without these kind of block points of, I'm not available today to do an interview.
Right. And Ryan, what you were just talking about, it's dead on the money. If we look at the Southwest Airlines, yes, Southwest Airlines has a waiting list of people to go to work there. That's the way it is because of their brand. They're known for their culture. They're known for their peanuts, whatever. But they got a waiting list of people to come to work for Southwest Airlines. That's the way it is. And what I see is unique with what you're doing is you have created a system not to tell someone why you don't want to work here. I mean, just like you said a while ago, so often the ads are out there. Well, if you come here, we want you to climb ladders. We want you to hook buckets up. We want you to do this. We want you to get dirty. We want you to be nasty. We want you to do all this. And it's like, this ain't how you sell something. That's like trying to sell an automobile and say, just be aware, you got to change the oil every such often. You're going to have to reline the front end. People have been telling why you don't want to go to work there. And now what you've created is a marketing plan of why Brandi Biswell is a choice to go to work for, because of the Topgolf, the Halloweens, the whatever's there. But, you know, that's one of the first parts that I see as such a big thing for you guys. But I see another part, and that is the filtering ability, which this blew me away, that you are actually able to, from what Danna explained to us, use artificial intelligence that filters through the applicant to actually hand you, where you can go on to a dashboard and you can show and you can look and say, okay, of these applicants, you had 80 applicants and 20 of them are worthy of an interview. Okay, that work is done for you. It's unreal. I was even told about a week ago about something about the candid rating, where you can actually detect through your use of artificial intelligence if someone has, is it not been truthful or is not. I mean, you may want to explain that, but let's talk about that assessment process. How have you been able to develop this data to comb through this to hand Sheryl and Brandi, these are the people that you want to interview?
Sure. And I think it really is from a holistic standpoint of understanding what it takes to build a business that's going to grow, right? It's going to grow and scale. And at the end of the day, the number one job of an entrepreneur is to ensure that we have a pipeline of talent that can help us grow. It's no different for us. Our company, we started January at 150 and we're now at 250. So we've increased the headcount at Applicant Pro by 60% in like 9 months, right? And so that is the engine for growth and delivery. And so clearly you start with, we need something unique to offer. For you guys that might be Topgolf, it's based on the who. And that's usually where we go wrong. We usually start with the who. Who is it that we want to clone? Who is it that we would love? I would love 1,000 Dannas. For real, if I could find 1,000 Dannas, I would hire them all day long. And by starting with the who, then I can start saying, well, what is it that makes Danna tick? What is it that makes her so amazing? And it could be where she came from, the job she had before she came to work for me, or say the experience or education. But then it's really like from her personality profile, from her behavior traits, what is it that makes her tick? Because for us, most of my employees have never worked in the tech world and have never done the job they're doing today before. When you do that, it allows me to target a whole new group of job seekers, but it also means that I've got to figure out how to predict if they'll be good at the job. And so for us, we start using assessments. And so based on the job, it's what types of behavior traits are going to make this person successful. If you think about behavior traits like, say, being an extrovert or competitive or assertive, they're kind of a rubber band, right? Like I can be non-assertive. You can ask Danna, she'll probably say I'm full of it, but I can stretch that rubber band out to be non-assertive. But oh my gosh, it takes a whole lot of effort to do that and sustain it. And when we're busy, when things get hard, when things are stressful, I'm going to let go and go back to being assertive, Ryan. And so what we're looking for is, what is the default profile of what it takes to be good in that role? And that's not just like being a chimney sweep or something like that. It's in that role at that organization with that manager. And that's why it's so important to be able to look at that. And so we ask a series of questions on an assessment that give us different traits, candidness being the very first one, that you're not deciding whether to hire somebody or not based on their candidness score. It's not a score of they're a liar. This is about how much are they polishing the apple, right? And when I apply for a job, clearly all of us at some level are going to put our best foot forward. But the question is, have we polished the apple so much that we can't actually tell who they are? And so candidness is one of the most important test criteria of, can we rely on everything else? And the key is like, if somebody's trying to polish the apple on the assessment, their resume is probably highly polished and their interview going to be highly polished. It effectively is the score of, are they being frank and direct and authentic, or are they trying to tell me what I want to hear? And that really is our very first indicator. And there's just a series of questions that you flow through in the assessment that gives us back that score, and a huge scoring algorithm that computes it based off of thousands and thousands of other candidates that have taken the test and how they did on the job. And so that really is the kind of the methodology behind it. It's only good if you have enough people to look at. And so that's why we always go back to sourcing. Like if you get 2 applicants, I don't care how they score in the test, you're going to hire one of them. But if you have 20, now we start to be able to have more confidence in screening and filtering people to really be honest about who we want to hire.
Okay, Sheryl, your turn. But before Sheryl comes on, I want to say something here. I want you to be aware, we are recommending this company, and there is nothing for us in this as far as there is no affiliation with us. There's no affiliate link. Our mission is to do problem solving, and we think that this is something that can solve your hiring issues. So there's no affiliate links. If you engage these people, there's nothing for us in this except knowing we've helped you. So Sheryl, your turn.
Well, first I'll say I am a DISC assessor. So I've been dealing with personality for longer than we want to talk about. But that's what I like about this. It kind of takes that into process. You're looking at their behavior. But with behaviors, we also know there's a super impatient person. So from start to finish, and I want to clear this up, this is not instantaneous once they say they want to come on with you. I need for the people to know the period of time that it will take and how much they need to prepare for.
Sure. Yeah, and so you have kind of the drumbeat of the process for hiring that clearly takes a period of time. And probably the best way to think about this as well as this emotional bank account concept from Stephen Covey, where you're saying throughout this process from beginning to end, you as a potential employer need to be maintaining this positive balance in your bank account. So as we talked, kind of Brandi was saying, hey, I didn't know, we'd posted on Indeed, and then all of a sudden we're getting more applicants from Indeed or ZipRecruiter or some of those places. What's the difference there? It really is we're trying to shorten that cycle by using our team as an extension of you. In the initial flow, meaning your brand new startup with us, clearly we're going to interview you and we're going to go write a series of ads that can take 3 or 4 days to get them live and in the system and applicants flowing. And then those ads will rotate each month as we go forward to spin up a different variation of the ad. It can take, a couple days to a few weeks to get enough applicants flowing. Our goal is to get as many as we can in that first few weeks. And that's really just kind of the launch phase that you can then, you're starting to filter them and seeing them so you can make that higher. I think Brandi said it took a couple weeks, right? Now, once you get going, though, this is what separates effective businesses that are growing from those that aren't, is that a lot of times recruiting becomes this like on-off switch, right? Oh, we hired somebody, so we shut it down. And then we're now doing our normal stuff because we're too busy as a business owner to be screening applicants when we're not hiring. And so then somebody quits or we fire somebody and all of a sudden it switches back to being this urgent problem. And once again, we're behind the 8 ball because the person quit. They're giving us 2 weeks, but it's going to take us a while to get applicants again. And so our approach is instead a little bit different to say for our core jobs, the jobs that we can pretty much predict we're going to be hiring for every few months, we're going to keep those jobs live. So you want to basically be always sourcing. You're not always hiring. That's the costly part, committing to pay somebody. But you always want to be sourcing candidates to have them ready to go. So that initial kickoff phase, clearly there's that kind of getting everything set up and working the right way where you have, a couple weeks to get everything flowing. But going forward, post that, you want to keep these jobs. The ones like, for instance, I know I will hire support people. There is no reason to turn off one of my support ads or one of my programmer ads, because I just know I'm going to be hiring them as we grow. Or you can kind of know that you have turnover. Somebody's going to leave at some point. And so that really is what speeds up the process. But it also, by having a system and a team of people doing it, it's not you doing that work. The idea that there's a constant flow of candidates being screened and flagged as high, medium, low is happening by somebody else, kind of out of sight, out of mind for your perspective as a business owner. But when you decide, you come into work one day and somebody shows up late and you're like, I'm sick of this guy. You just think about the confidence you have when you could just log and be like, and here's his replacement. So dude, show up on time tomorrow or we're done. Normally you wouldn't have that. Normally somebody would show up late to work and you're like, oh man, if I call this guy on his stuff, he might walk off the job. It might take me 2 or 3 weeks to find a replacement. So I kind of don't have the same level of confidence. But so that really is, hopefully that answers your question, Sheryl. Up front, there is this period of time to getting the engine going or the flywheel spinning. But once that flywheel is spinning, our goal as a business owner is to keep it spinning. You wouldn't do the same with your website. You wouldn't be like, hey, I got a bunch of work for this month, so shut off the website. We'll turn it back on when we need more leads. But that effectively is what most businesses are doing with recruiting. Once they hire, they shut it down. And then they have to jumpstart it again. And that flywheel, like we just think about it like a flywheel. It's really hard to get it spinning again. If you just keep it spinning, it takes less effort. But it normally is just a prioritization thing. Nobody on your team feels urgent and important about recruiting or sourcing candidates when you're staffed. But our team does. And that really is kind of the power behind it once you get going.
Brandi, your turn.
So I'm going to actually, I have some more questions, but I was going to go to the one of our viewers asked, how often as an industry do you see very low candidate scores? This seems to be a very common theme with all the applicants we are getting.
Yeah. So, I mean, in theory, a lot of those scores are kind of a bell curve where you would assume that it's a low percentage of people that are 1s and 2s and a low percentage of people that are 9s and 10s. And from an industry, we might look at it that way and say, well, I'm getting a lot of lower quality candidates, right? Again, I'm not judging somebody as long as they're not falling out in the bottom 3, right? It's people who are in the middle. Like, I'm not saying that somebody in the middle is worse than somebody who's a high candidate. It isn't a measurement like that, like a normal test score where I only want to hire 9s and 10s. It's an indicator of the validity of the other parts. So for me, candidness is a checkoff, a yes or no. If you're below a 3, I'm not going to trust the information I got on the other parts. But if you're above it, I'm good to go. I might understand that it might skew a little, but I'm not kicking people out because they're 4s and 5s in candidness. It's part of human nature that we're going to be trying to put our best foot forward. It's what we've told kids since middle school. I mean, high school counselors are training kids, polish your resume, put your best foot forward, show up and make a good first impression. So a certain level of that you expect to be in there. The way to solve it from an industry perspective is you need to give a reason for the best people to apply. And again, I know I'll sound like a broken record here on the job ad, but if you write a crappy job ad, you're going to attract crappy applicants. Therefore, my solution to almost every single problem that comes up, whether it's why don't we get very good candidates, or they're ghosting us, or we're, they're not showing up for interviews, if you don't know what ghosting is, or they're, the assessment scores are really low, is always going to be go back to the beginning of the process, identify your who, and usually that's people working for you. If people love working for you, then I want to know why those people love working for me so I can go find people like them and tell that story. And so normally if you say, hey, we have low candidate quality, I'm going to bring it back to, well, we need to change the targeting then and target somebody better. Or you need to figure out how to make sure that working for you is an upgrade. And sometimes that can be the hardest part, where it's like, well, we don't offer PTO, or we don't offer the same benefits, or we don't have that Top Golf uniqueness. In my world, it's house cleaning, right? I pay for house cleaning for my employees. We're 80% female. That clearly is our thing. Nobody copies it. It is a huge driver. And your final part would be, if you have a great team of employees, even just a few of them, that is my best source of candidates. And it's something that we can kind of jump into. Once you have Indeed working from a flywheel and those job boards, Indeed, Zip, Facebook, all of those places, long-term, your best source of hires will be your employees. That is the goal in life. That is the ultimate, in the same way that the best source of customers is customer referrals. My employees generate, I believe, 70% of all of our hires come from our employees. Most of the time, small businesses will say, well, I don't have very many employees, so that means it won't work. Well, you also don't need to hire very many people. I have one employee who's generated 7 of my new hires just from one. And so if you have happy employees, there are ways in the system for us to turn them into job sharers, not recruiters, but people who can share those jobs out on Facebook, out in Facebook groups, and kind of, you've got these two engines for sourcing. You have us helping you with the job boards, and you have us helping you get your employees to amplify that signal out into the world. And you do that by running a monthly contest and talking about it and saying it's important as a leader and saying thank you, honestly, like standing Danna up and saying, Danna, thank you for referring this person. This is important to us. We as business owners and leaders do not understand how powerful our words are, especially in public, in front of our team, when we call out somebody who's helped the company. And so that really, those are the two ways. I know it goes back to sourcing, but until you have so many applicants that you're like, I could hire any of them, I'm flooded with quality candidates, you're going to keep pushing the gas pedal on the top of the funnel because it makes all the other problems easier or unnecessary to solve.
Jerry, I've got to give you some bad news right now. I'm going to resign and I'm going to go to work for Ryan so that I can have my house cleaned and he pays for it.
Well, maybe you need to talk to Mr. Biswell about that. I believe your full-time occupation is with Lutz Brothers, and this is a secondary career, young man.
I'm resigning there too.
Okay.
So that you guys know, I'm going to spend $250,000 this year on house cleaning.
I love it.
It is, but just think about, and you could find that guilty pleasure that you pay. Maybe it is Topgolf. What you're looking for is a shareable experience, right? So when Danna gets her house cleaned, my hope is that she's like, man, today was rough at work. I was on calls all day long. My boss was a jerk and talked the whole time through a call and blah, 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 blah. But I came home to a clean house. Or during COVID, but the cleaners came today and cleaned up the house. And so it creates this shareable experience that then when Danna shares a job, because she gets an email today that says, hey, we're hiring for customer service, go click and share this job on Facebook. Somebody in her network will say, hey, Danna, is that the place that pays for your house cleaning? So what you're doing is you're putting this, we're a great place to work, in an underhanded way, posted by an employee that has way more credibility than if I posted it. If I went out to Facebook and said, I pay for the house cleaning for my employees, that's kind of a big corporate push. But if my employees are talking about it, it adds a level of credibility in the same way that we trust a random person's review on Yelp to decide where we're going to go eat, not what the restaurant actually told us. Well, this same thing, if you think about it, job boards are corporate pushed content, which is good and you have to do it. But employee posting, that's the same as a customer saying, go here. This is an employee saying, no. He says it's a great place to work, but the fact that I'm posting it says he's not a liar. And so that credibility angle of that piece, that, yeah, Topgolf, getting your employees to post about Topgolf and about that experience starts to bring the kind of experience forward out into the world that you're different than everybody else. And then you bring it up with a job that says, hey, we're hiring, click here to go apply. And that kind of brings it home. Usually you need 50 applicants to make one hire from a job board. You need 5 to 10 from an employee referral. So you need substantially fewer people, substantially fewer applicants, substantially less screening to get to a good hire when you use those other sources to kind of balance out your mix.
Okay. So Ryan, if I'm a listener right now, I'm thinking you're telling me you're going to do at least 2 ads for me. You're going to change those ads up. You're going to vet the candidates for me. You're going to use this artificial intelligence. I'm hearing all these things. And as a listener, I'm thinking, holy cow, this is going to cost me a fortune. But I found that not to be true. Could you speak to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, part of it is just you have to figure out how to make something reach your user where they're at, right? So pre-COVID, we were heavy into above 100 employee companies, right? And that's where we were at. We were selling to HR people at a bigger corporate, and we had a lot of small businesses buying from us. But they would also, in the software world, we call it churn. It's cancellation, right? It's a monthly subscription. So someone canceled because they weren't hiring anymore, which was short-sighted that they didn't keep recruiting. And some would cancel because we were selling them the software. And that was it, which meant they had to go figure out how to use it. We were giving them a job, right? And that job was now recruiting. And so we switched during COVID, and we're now, I think, 75% of our new clients are small and a much more service plus software approach. Because, and really where we're talking is that top of the funnel. If we can get good people, write a good ad, and make sure they're pre-screened at that point, then that makes everything work better. But yeah, our average client in that small space is spending $300 to $600 a month. It's substantially less money than you would think. But the reason why that is if you went and hired a bookkeeper, if you went and hired somebody to do this, you would have to pay them and then find other stuff for them to do. I instead hire one person who works with 200 different accounts. And so we're spreading their time out. That's number one. Number two, they're working with the same people over and over again. Your admin assistant who does hiring for you has the perspective or context of one company. Whereas we have, 20 or 30 just in the chimney sweep space that we're doing it. But we also have HVAC and plumbing and electricians that are very similar. Thousands in the home service space of companies we're doing it for, which gives us the economy of scale of getting really, really good at this type of stuff. We're bringing our knowledge and experience and then tools. Clearly, I'm a software guy. We build stuff to make my team more effective and streamlined than you would ever imagine. Really just trying to optimize around the human connections. So we don't want to take Danna out of the mix. We want her or the account manager engaged with the customers, but I also don't want her doing a bunch of busy work that I could code the platform or use the assessment for or something like that. And that really is our, my goal. I like working with small businesses. I think that is really the engine of the economy and the engine of growth. And regardless of what you think about your bigger competitors, people, a segment of the population, like working for small businesses. No red tape. I can talk right to the boss. I can wear lots of different hats and have variation in my work. I can have a personal connection to the person I work for. Those companies don't have the same rules and structure. And sometimes I'm not told to do something by somebody who doesn't understand what I do. Those are the reasons that certain people work for small businesses and why I like it. It's more substance, less style. And so, yeah, that really is, it seems like it'd be much more expensive because a recruiter or a staffing company would charge substantially more. But that's just a deliberate attempt on our side to make sure we maintain efficiency to make it so it's profitable.
But what if I want to hire for 5 positions? Am I paying $300 per position?
No. So we price based on number of employees. And so there's tiers based on how big you are. But no, it's unlimited number of jobs inside of that area. And so clearly, if you've got 20 employees, I'm going to assume there's probably 3 core positions that we're running all the time. And then a random position, maybe once a quarter, where you're like, oh, we need a new bookkeeper or something like that. And so those 3 core positions will write variated ads for each one, and they'll automatically be cycling through as it switches up, maybe targeting a little bit different target or something like that. But no, and clearly a lot of times while we think we're hiring 5 people, we're really hiring 5 people in 2 jobs. So you're getting applicants and hiring a couple of your best people. And so no, that's not per job or anything like that. We set up the engine and we just keep it running for you.
Right. And Ryan, and tell you that was one of the things when we did our first conversation with Danna, and this was one of my statements. Please don't take this literally and don't take action on this, but I made the statement, I don't know how you do what you do for the cost that you do. I mean, that's honest. So don't start jacking everybody's prices up, but take that as a compliment because it means you figured out how to do a very effective job. But I've kind of got a twofold question now for you. Okay, so we're talking about, and we have a lot of companies that are blue collar, but with your expertise of what you're doing, it's not just blue collar. I know I recently referred someone to you that runs a website marketing company. They were looking for a person there. So basically, you can hire for any type of industry, any type of company, as long as you get the information. And the other thing was the approach, which is all the different job boards. That was one of the things that Danna explained to me in the call, which is you're posting this on a number of job boards that will work for that particular industry, and how you have access to thousands of job boards, but you pick the right ones for those companies. So can you deal with those two things a little bit for me? It kind of goes along with what Brandi says, but no matter what the position is, if someone's looking for a CSR, a dispatcher, a technician, a general manager, an operations guy, bookkeeper, whatever it is, y'all can fill that role. Am I correct?
Yep. Yeah, exactly correct. Because at the end of the day, like if you back out of hiring a CSR, you get back to the same kind of core process that's going on, which is you need to decide who you're after. You need to write an ad that will attract that who. You need to create a process to screen, filter, and then interview and select for that job. So whether we're trying to hire a programmer or a salesperson or a COO, or whether you're down hiring in the more blue collar level of customer service or actual technicians or those types of things, it's a similar flow for what you're trying to accomplish. And when it comes to sourcing, similar thing. We have our core kind of like job board world of Indeed and ZipRecruiter and Facebook and LinkedIn now have job boards and thousands, whether it's a college job board or a tech school job board or you name it. We have clearly over here my favorite thing, which is employee referrals. And if you think about that, if I have employees in those roles, the people in their network, but it's not just like their BFFs that I'm after. I'm not after their best friend. I'm after anybody who Danna's post would reach. So, which brings us into the middle ground, which is more of your social type stuff. I'm using my employees to do the social marketing of our jobs. And that's not just Danna posting it as a status update. In every city and every town, there are Facebook groups around openings and hirings. There's Facebook groups around, yard sale sites or community sites. All of those things can be used as a medium to attract candidates up and down the spectrum. Clearly, Facebook is for your target audience and our target audience, the core social platform that we use every day. And so those three areas are your core kind of sources of being able to pull from. Before you start going crazy, we also do email marketing, and nobody really knows this, but your jobs are fed out into an email database where we send. Last month, I sent 50 million emails to job seekers in the United States, all coming from my name and my email address. I think we're dealing with like 1,500 replies a day right now. And so whatever, I'm a marketer. This is what I do. We're just aiming it at recruiting. And so all of those kind of channels work regardless of the level of the job and the power, no matter how many times I say it, the power is the message. Because all of those are just different, like the cheerleaders use, those big amplifiers, right? It's all just the message. If you put garbage in the one side, it just amplifies it. And so it really is, can we get the right message to then amplify?
Sheryl, your turn, sweetie.
Basically, we have covered, how the people start. But okay, I'm listening to you today. What is my next step?
Sure. So your next step, shoot Danna an email, Danna@applicantpro.com, and say, hey, I'm ready to solve this hiring problem, right? Literally, that's all you got to do. She'll follow up. She probably has a calendar link that she'll send back to you. You can click on it, schedule a time, throw on her schedule. Like I said, she's going to walk through an interview with you to figure out what are your core jobs you're hiring for all the time, what are kind of the one-offs you have open right now, and ask you a series of questions, really drilling down in what makes working for you an upgrade compared to where somebody's at right now. That's really the goal. What makes your company great? What's the job like? What's the interaction like? And that really is our step of what to go from. From there, the team with Danna, it's not just Danna. She has an entire team backing her up that they'll create a career site. They'll write the job ads. They'll get everything set up the right way, get them posted, get applicants to start flowing. And she'll schedule a time to then train you, right? Train you so that you're ready to go. But we have this period of time where applicants are flowing because we love training people when we have some real people to look at, like real jobs, real people, so that you can, training's only as good as you quickly using it. And so that really is what that flow looks like that you then can run from there as far as, you're going to be getting emails letting you know when there's applicants, you're going to log in and go engage them and that type of thing. One question on here, how much for a super small business? Our general setup is a 3-month commitment. After that, it's month to month. Clearly, if you're growing your business or if you have turnover, which the industry has, I would keep that live as much as possible. But if you need to, if you have a slow season or you're not going to hire anymore for a while, anything like that, you can hibernate the account. We'll turn it off, fire it back up when you're ready to come back online again. And so it is month to month after the first 3 months. And so again, I suggest you keep it live if you're growing. But so for a super small business, I don't know what the bottom threshold is, Danna, right now on the pricing for this niche.
Yeah, so for 5 employees, you guys would be $349 a month. So not super expensive.
Danna, if you would, let's go ahead and go through the price breakdown on here. We'll go ahead and share that. Let's go up to that 25-point employee threshold, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get that pulled open here.
While she's doing that, I would just like to say one thing. You begin with Danna, and she is always there. I mean, anytime I need an email from her, I shoot it to her. But then she's moved me down to Devin that has branched me out to other people. It's not just a one-man band. You have a group of people that are working with you when you're on here. So if you've got a problem, they fix it, and it goes to the correct person.
Yeah, so each account, Danna clearly is on the front side, right? She is what would be a salesperson. We call them hiring consultants, but she's there to gather your needs and your pains and make sure we get you set up on the right track. But you will be then assigned to an account manager. So all of our even the small business clients have a dedicated account manager. That is your person from that point forward that you can hit up on email or text or chat or call and say, hey, we need to hire this, or hey, we're not getting enough applicants. What could you help me with? That is kind of your point of contact, is that account manager. But yeah, behind them, I think we have 15 people that just write job ads all day long. Like literally all they do is write ads. On a given month, we're onboarding over 200 new companies onto the platform. So yeah, there is an entire infrastructure behind setting up and getting things live and writing ads and making sure it works. And then going forward, making sure that drumbeat continues of what do you do when there's a problem? There's a support person, even if your account manager's out of town, that can be engaged with. And so really, again, we're selling a tech-enabled service is the way to think about it. We're not selling software where support's there just if you forget your password. This is a service we're providing that we enable with technology. And so that means you're going to talk to a human. I'm going to try to make sure that you don't need to talk to them as often, but they're still there if you want to talk to them and engage them.
Okay. So Brandi, did that cover you, or do you have anything else?
I mean, I've got a message while we've been doing this, and you've actually created a problem for one of my clients because he now actually has 2 ideal candidates for the same position. So you've created a problem there. I don't know what to say, but actually I had a funny thing, Ryan. I wanted to know, do you use a housekeeping service or do you hire your housekeepers through Applicant Pro?
Oh my gosh, are you ready for this? So here's how it works. Each month, the manager decides what their team's goal is for the month, what the metric is. And it's not like the normal sales metric. It might be, hey, we're trying to document out these processes everybody needs to do one process document, or it could be, hey, we want to like fix up the trucks this year or this month or whatever. So you have to accomplish that and the manager signs off. At that point, you can choose. We have kind of like preferred providers of house cleaning, but you could go get your own. So if you get your own, you pay for it, submit for a reimbursement. If you use our preferred one, you just schedule and we pay the bill. And so that's how we facilitate it. Because, yeah, just that. I mean, there's a huge mechanism to handle house cleaning for 200 people, right? And so I may or may not have helped a friend launch a housekeeping business using this because we generate so much revenue for them. But if you go back to your original thing, though, if we created a problem, this really is the balancing act of growing, building a sustainable business, but more importantly, growing it. This balancing act of, can I pull the demand generation lever and the hiring generation lever at the right times of going, hey, we have two awesome people. We should hire them both. The way to hire them both is you better have a lever to pull for marketing. And if you can throw more demand into the funnel, then that's really where it's at. And most businesses are just like, it's like they just keep pulling on the two sides of the steering wheel and they're all over the road with it versus creating sustainable funnels of both hiring and marketing. And that really is, I'm sure your guys' goal from a success standpoint and their goal of having those two levers. Because, man, when you find an awesome candidate that wants to work for you, like it is the hardest kind of trust mechanism in business to realize that if you create capacity for revenue, revenue will come. But when there is not capacity, especially in something where you're trying to schedule people and you push them out 2 weeks, most of that home services world doesn't do a very good job of recognizing how many leads they lose because of scheduling, because they're not tracking that. When they call up and they're like, hey, I need somebody to come out this week. And you're like, well, we're 3 weeks out. That is unrecognized revenue that you would get if you had the capacity. But if you run right at capacity, meaning that, oh yeah, we can tell people we can help them, we're just pushing the dates out, you turn away a lot of revenue that would come in if you had that excess capacity. And so as a business, you have to figure out a way to manage your budget so there's always capacity to deliver for that next customer who comes in. And so that really is like, you should be hiring based off of the capacity you want in the next few months, not based off of today.
Gotcha. So, Danna, I brought you to the forefront because you've been so quiet down there, and Ryan has talked so much, but we know you're one of the people that does this work, and he's doing the brains and all that stuff back there. So one of the things that I want people to know, since you've got connected in the industries that we're working in, we're starting to accumulate the data that works for our specific industry. And I know I talked to you recently about that. So what's also happening, and Ryan, so you're aware, I've asked Danna to accumulate what's happening as far as what wording works for this industry, what's working in these various areas. So are we coming together with that data, Danna, that we were looking for, that you and I talked about?
We are coming together with that data, and I'm actually seeing some really great results. Of course, across the board with everybody in different locations, there have been kind of an ebb and flow with everybody. But I'm seeing, according to what I've gathered from some of your guys' clients on where they were generating applicants before, probably about a 30 to 40% increase in their qualified applicant flow. And the applicant flow that they're bringing in, we're seeing a good increase in the number of hires that they're actually able to bring on to their companies too. So everybody's been super happy. And one thing that I really love about working at Applicant Pro is we're always pivoting and adjusting. So, you know, we might not hit the mark the first go around, but we definitely will come up with something bigger and better and just keep moving you guys forward. So.
Well, you know, every time I've talked to you, I've always been amazed because we talk on video conference a lot. And I've always been amazed because all those books are always so neat and organized. Now I know why, because we have a housekeeper that's doing this. Okay. So anyway, but I just noticed that. So Sheryl, I have a question for you. Okay. You are a user of this for your own company, but I want to gear to your client base that you do hiring for, because many of these when we started using Applicant Pro as your marketing source, what we found was the cost of Applicant Pro was actually less than what they were spending in Indeed. And Brandi may shaking her head yet. She may even agree with that. So, you know, since you're using this, but you're actually involved in the process, what do you have to do as a client of Applicant Pro to make this work? Because I think that's what everybody's got to understand. There is some responsibilities on the client. So with you using this with multiple companies, what do you have to do?
Well, there's ratings that I can put in when I look at an employee that balances out high, low, or medium for me. So it comes back in their algorithms and things that they can find. I also have to be fairly alert if a company is not getting the applicants that we think they are. That is it the questions that may have been asked? Is it the way you're looking at it? Are you not looking at all the applications? And the thing is just to stay behind it. But the main thing is to be able to see where the issues are and push them on out to Danna or Devin or whoever I'm talking with, because it's extremely important. You're not just going to, it's not a plug and play. You don't just hit a button, you automatically have a candidate. And you have to be willing to look at the things. I mean, I use the video recordings a lot of the times. A lot of times if I find the superstar candidate, I'm available right then to bring him on without having to go through a lot of the process. So it's a matter of whether you're me or whether you're doing your own, just stay behind it. And I think that's where people fall through the loops. And the people there help me out a lot. I get little kick emails. Okay, you've got this many applicants because you've been working and you've had 500 applicants come in over the weekend. So you've got to weed through them after a while. But it's the attention that you would have to give one ad. I can give that same amount of attention to 10 ads. I've got one client, I think they have 10 ads up right now. We're working hard to find people, and this seems to bring them out. And a lot right now of their ads are from Indeed, but it's the qualified Indeed ads. And the reason it's Indeed a lot of times because I think that's the higher of the blue collar market bring in flow right now.
Right. But what you got to remember is no matter how it comes to you, you got to attract people. And it's kind of like writing a website. One of the things that successful companies find out is writing a website. To be honest with you, anybody with a computer could probably write a website. Okay, get WordPress, whatever. You can do a website, a Wix website, but is it going to work? No. You're going to contract with someone who does websites, someone who is good. And we look at it, it's like, how do you do SEO? How do you insert the keywords? How do you make it draw? Just like YouTube and social media and Facebook, using your keywords. And that's what we've dealt with here. And I think if you have listened to this has not been just a presentation about Applicant Pro. I think the information that Ryan has shared, and Ryan, I want to thank you. You are a wealth of information. I have been shocked at what we have learned, and Brandi's sitting there shaking her head, yes, and I'm sure Sheryl has, because I think you've shared some great thoughts today, which is you got to go out there and you've got to market for what you want. And that's what we see is the big difference here is we're not just doing postings. And another big thing is, and this was what's amazing, this is outproducing the paid ads that we're going. Look at Brandi, are you agreeing with me that it's outproducing what people were paying for ads? It's actually less than what they were paying monthly for Indeed. Brandi, am I correct?
Incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
if I could chime in, I think one of the challenges with that is it's unbelievable. If you walk outside, and so I'll just unpack this. If you walk outside and go talk to anybody in the world or read the news, there's a talent shortage. Oh my gosh, there's a talent shortage. Kids these days don't want to work. The government's paying people not to work. Like every boogeyman on the face of the planet could be pulled out right now today. as an excuse or a reason why people aren't applying. Okay. There is one core data point that nobody sees or talks about. And here's what it is. For every one applicant that you're getting in your inbox today, there are 100 people who ran a search for that job in that location and saw your ad in the results on Indeed. 100 for every one applicant, meaning 100 people saw it in the results but didn't click, clicked and read your ad but didn't apply, or started applying but didn't finish. And so if we think that throwing an ad on Indeed gets all the potential applicants, and so if we don't see them, they don't exist, that's not real. That's the data across about 200,000 jobs and 500 million searches on Indeed for just our clients alone, is that it's 1 to 100. So the reason why it works is because the difference between 1 out of 100 or 2 out of 100 or 3 out of 100 applying is how did you speak to them in the ad, or did we target the right words? Give you a great example. If I am looking for a dispatcher, bless your hearts, like dispatcher is a great job title inside of chimney, inside of plumbing, inside of HVAC. You guys all hire for dispatcher. Here's the dirty secret. The job seekers you want aren't searching for dispatcher. Dispatcher to the rest of us outside of your industry is a 911 operator, and we don't want that job. And that job pays significantly more. The people that you actually want to hire are searching for customer service or appointment setter. And so if we target dispatcher on Indeed and we don't get very many applicants, it's not because potential people don't exist. It's because we told Indeed only to target this very small sliver of the population. So when we choose a different word, suddenly we're targeting way more, whether you were spending money. And I'm not saying to stop spending money on Indeed. I'm saying if you want to spend money on Indeed, let me write you an ad that will produce, so that when you spend that money, you produce the massive, as many applicants as possible per dollar spent. So we're not anti-paid. It's just, again, we're amplifying the message. When you spend money on Indeed, you're amplifying even more a bad message. And so choosing better keywords, that's what you'll see Danna will come back with as she starts to really analyze is, hey, dispatcher, look, love y'all to death, but that's not the right job title. And while you might call it that, that's not what your job seekers are calling it. And so just like in marketing, you don't use your language, you use your prospect's language. That is where you start to see why it works. But I just want to make sure that everybody knows, because the problem is what Brandi and Sheryl and Jerry have said today is not socially proven. If you listen to the news or listen in your industry, you're going to hear these guys can't possibly be doing it because nobody else has figured it out. But just understand, nobody else is trying to figure it out. They're literally just not trying. So one of the reasons that, you know, when I'm out speaking that I give why people should work with us, I just care about this more than anybody else. Like, people don't try to solve these problems. And so that really is, though, just so there's some proof there, there are plenty of people out there to hire. They do exist. The reason you're not seeing them isn't because they don't want to work. It's because they don't want to work for you based on what you put out there. Give them a reason to want to work for you, and you will find there's plenty of applicants.
Hey, Brian, I'm going to tell you what. I think that all three of us have heard tremendous wisdom from you today. I'm very, very serious. We're going to be taking this into our coaching. You may be quoted a whole lot of different places. So if you've listened to us today, our mission today was to provide you a solution, a process, and I think we have done that. So if what we've talked about is an interest to you, I'm going to suggest you reach out to Danna, D-A-N-N-A, at applicantpro.com, or go research their website, see what's there. There's some great information. Danna will set up a call with you. It'll take her about 30 minutes to go through the process. Then you're going to need to give her the information. You heard what they said. They're going to write you a great marketing piece that's going to attract attention, to make you stand out, to stop people in their tracks. Again, we looked into this because we heard of the success that you are doing with one company, and it's grew from there. So if this has been of value to you today, would you do us the courtesy, would you do us the honor of sharing this on your social pages? This will remain up on our social pages through the next couple of days. And with that, we appreciate you joining us here today on the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. We do this every week, and our whole mission is to share information with you that will help you in your business and in your life. And if we can help you at CVC Success Group, just reach out to us at any time. Feel free to have a conversation with Brent, myself, Brandi, or Sheryl, or even all three of us. We'll be glad to get on a call with you. And with that, we'll see you next.